Have you ever felt your heart race uncontrollably, your palms grow clammy, and your mind seem to freeze as if you've hit a mental roadblock? What exactly is happening inside your brain in that precise moment of fear? Is it just a fleeting emotional reaction, or is there a deeply rooted survival mechanism at play? Today, we're diving into the intricate science of fear, exploring how your brain responds during moments of panic and anxiety, and uncovering the fascinating details that make this primal emotion so powerful. Fear, in its simplest form, is your body's natural alarm system. It's a survival mechanism that has been hardwired into our species over millennia, protecting us from danger and ensuring our survival. Imagine our earliest ancestors encountering a predator in the wild. Those who were able to react swiftly to fear by either fighting or fleeing were more likely to survive and pass on their genes. Fear, therefore, isn't just an emotion, it's a biological response designed to keep us alive. But fear isn't limited to life-threatening situations. In modern times, this ancient mechanism has adapted to more subtle triggers, like public speaking, social rejection, or the overwhelming demands of daily life. Your brain perceives these situations as threats, even if they're far removed from the physical dangers our ancestors faced. This explains why your heart races before a big presentation or why your palms sweat during a confrontation. It's your brain's way of preparing you for action, even if no predator is lurking in the shadows. What makes fear particularly fascinating is how deeply it is intertwined with the brain. Fear is not random. It follows a specific neurological pathway, activating certain areas of your brain like the amygdala, which acts as the command center for processing threats. When triggered, this tiny yet powerful structure sets off a cascade of events, flooding your body with stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, sharpening your senses, and priming you to respond. This process, known as the fight or flight response, is what keeps us alive in moments of true danger. However, fear doesn't always work perfectly. Sometimes, the system overreacts, leading to anxiety or even debilitating panic attacks. These responses can feel overwhelming, leaving you wondering why your body and mind are reacting so intensely to something that might not even be a real threat. That's where understanding the science of fear becomes crucial. By exploring how your brain processes fear, we can begin to unravel why these responses occur and, more importantly, how we can manage them. In this video, we'll take a deep dive into the fascinating science of fear, exploring the evolutionary roots of this emotion, what happens inside your brain during moments of panic and anxiety, and how fear can both protect and hinder us. Along the way, we'll discuss groundbreaking research, real-life case studies, and controversial insights into how fear impacts our lives. So, whether you're someone who struggles with anxiety or simply curious about the inner workings of your mind, this exploration promises to give you a fresh perspective on an emotion we all experience. Understanding fear isn't just about satisfying curiosity, it's about empowerment. The more you know about what's happening in your brain during those intense moments, the better equipped you'll be to navigate them. So, join us on this journey as we uncover the mysteries of fear, one of the most complex and misunderstood emotions in human psychology. Let's get started. The evolutionary origins of fear. Fear is one of the oldest and most primal emotions. Its origins stretch back to a time when survival depended on immediate, instinctive responses to danger. To truly understand fear, we must first delve into its evolutionary roots and explore how this critical mechanism has shaped both humans and other species over millennia. The role of fear in survival. At its core, fear is a survival tool. When faced with a threat, your body activates what's known as the fight or flight response, a biological reaction designed to protect you. This process begins in the amygdala, the brain's emotional processing center, which detects danger and sends an urgent message to the hypothalamus. This message sets off a chain reaction, releasing stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol into your bloodstream. These hormones prepare your body for immediate action. Your heart rate increases, your breathing quickens, and your muscles tense, ready for either confrontation or escape. For early humans, this response was the difference between life and death. Imagine encountering a predator in the wild, such as a lion stalking prey on the savannah. The fight or flight response would kick in, giving our ancestors the heightened senses, speed, and strength needed to either fend off the threat or flee to safety. Without this response, survival would have been nearly impossible. Fear sharpened their instincts, making them hyper-aware of their surroundings, and it likely played a crucial role in the development of early human intelligence and social cooperation. But fear wasn't just about avoiding predators. It also helped early humans navigate other dangers, like natural disasters or poisonous plants. For example, the fear of snakes or spiders, a common phobia even today, can be traced back to this evolutionary need to avoid venomous creatures. These fears are so deeply embedded in our brains that they persist even in modern environments where such threats are minimal. Case study: survival in extreme situations. To see fear in action, let's look at a modern example: a hiker surviving a bear encounter. Imagine you're trekking through a dense forest, enjoying the serene beauty of nature, when suddenly, you stumble upon a grizzly bear. In that moment, your brain's fear response goes into overdrive. Your amygdala sounds the alarm, your heart pounds in your chest, and your body prepares for what could be a life or death situation. In one such real-life case, a hiker in Alaska found himself face to face with a grizzly. He recalled feeling an almost surreal clarity as his fear kicked in. Instead of panicking, he relied on his instincts and knowledge of bear behavior. Slowly backing away and avoiding direct eye contact, he managed to de-escalate the situation until the bear lost interest and wandered off. This example highlights the dual nature of fear. On one hand, it can overwhelm us, paralyzing our ability to act. On the other, when harnessed correctly, it can enhance our focus and decision-making, giving us a chance to survive even in the direst circumstances. Fear across species. Fear isn't unique to humans. It's a universal emotion shared by countless species. While the triggers and responses may vary, the fundamental purpose of fear remains the same: survival. In the animal kingdom, prey and predators alike experience fear, though they display it in different ways. For prey animals, fear is often a constant state. A gazelle grazing in the African plains is always on high alert, scanning for signs of predators. When it detects danger, its fear response activates, triggering an immediate flight reaction. Speed and agility become its primary tools for survival, and fear ensures these are employed at the right moment. Predators, on the other hand, experience fear in more calculated ways. A lion hunting a herd of gazelles must balance its hunger with the risks of injury. If the prey puts up a fight, the predator may retreat, driven by its own fear of harm. This dynamic creates a delicate balance in ecosystems, where fear plays a pivotal role in regulating behaviors and maintaining equilibrium. Interestingly, some animals have evolved unique fear responses. Possums, for example, play dead when threatened, relying on predators' disinterest in carrion to avoid being eaten. Octopuses, on the other hand, use camouflage and ink clouds to evade predators, showcasing how fear has driven the evolution of diverse survival strategies. Even among social animals like elephants and wolves, fear serves a communal purpose. When one member of a group senses danger, it communicates this fear to others, triggering a collective response. This ability to share fear enhances the survival of the group, demonstrating the powerful role fear plays not just on an individual level but within entire communities. The legacy of fear has been an indispensable part of life for millions of years, shaping the behavior of humans and animals alike. It has driven the development of survival strategies, honed instincts, and even influenced the evolution of our brains. While the threats we face today are vastly different from those of our ancestors, the mechanisms of fear remain largely the same. As we continue to explore the science of fear, it's fascinating to see how this ancient emotion, born from the need to survive in a dangerous world, still governs so much of our behavior today. Whether it's a life-threatening encounter in the wild or the everyday challenges of modern life, fear reminds us of our shared connection to the natural world and the powerful instincts that have kept us alive for generations. The brain's role in fear is far more than just an emotional response. It's a complex interplay of neurological activity that unfolds in different parts of the brain. This intricate system, often referred to as the fear circuit, governs how we detect, process, and respond to threats. Understanding this circuit not only provides insight into why we feel fear but also explains the nuanced ways our brains can both protect and hinder us during moments of panic or anxiety. Introduction to the fear circuit. The fear circuit is composed of three key players: the amygdala, the prefrontal cortex, and the hippocampus. Each of these regions plays a unique role in how we experience and respond to fear. The amygdala is often described as the brain's alarm system. It's a small, almond-shaped structure located deep within the temporal lobe, responsible for detecting potential threats. When you encounter something frightening, the amygdala springs into action, sending signals that initiate a cascade of responses throughout the body. The prefrontal cortex, located in the front of the brain, acts as the rational counterbalance to the amygdala. This region is responsible for decision-making, emotional regulation, and assessing the severity of a threat. In a well-functioning system, the prefrontal cortex helps us determine whether fear is justified or if it's an overreaction. Finally, the hippocampus, a seahorse-shaped structure nestled near the amygdala, is the memory hub of the brain. It stores and retrieves memories, particularly those tied to emotional experiences. When you encounter a situation that feels familiar, the hippocampus helps the brain decide whether it's truly dangerous or simply reminiscent of past events. Together, these three regions form a feedback loop that allows us to perceive, process, and react to fear-inducing stimuli. However, this system doesn't always function perfectly, leading to exaggerated fear responses, anxiety, or even post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. The amygdala, the fear center to the amygdala, is the cornerstone of the fear response. Its primary role is to detect threats, often before we're even consciously aware of them. This detection happens at lightning speed. Studies show that the amygdala can respond to a perceived threat in as little as 20 milliseconds. When the amygdala identifies a threat, it activates the hypothalamus, which in turn triggers the fight or flight response. This response prepares the body for immediate action by increasing heart rate, dilating pupils, and flooding the bloodstream with adrenaline and cortisol. Research has revealed just how active the amygdala becomes during fear. Neuroimaging studies using functional MRI scans show a dramatic increase in amygdala activity when participants are exposed to fear-inducing images or situations. For example, in one study, participants who viewed pictures of angry faces exhibited heightened amygdala activation, even though the images posed no real threat. Interestingly, the amygdala's sensitivity varies from person to person. Those with anxiety disorders often have an overactive amygdala, which can make them perceive threats where none exist. This hyperactivity can lead to a state of constant vigilance, where the brain is always on high alert. The prefrontal cortex and emotional regulation. While the amygdala is quick to react, the prefrontal cortex takes a more measured approach. This region is responsible for analyzing threats and determining whether a fear response is appropriate. Think of it as the brain's voice of reason, providing context and perspective to the amygdala's alarm signals. In healthy individuals, the prefrontal cortex can effectively regulate fear by dampening the amygdala's response. For instance, if you see a snake behind a glass enclosure at a zoo, your amygdala might initially trigger fear. However, your prefrontal cortex steps in to remind you that the snake poses no real danger, allowing your fear to subside. Unfortunately, the prefrontal cortex doesn't always perform this regulatory role effectively. During moments of intense panic or chronic anxiety, the connection between the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala weakens. This disconnect leaves the amygdala unchecked, resulting in heightened fear responses. Research has shown that individuals with anxiety disorders often have reduced activity in their prefrontal cortex. This imbalance creates a feedback loop where fear becomes harder to control, further exacerbating feelings of panic and distress. The hippocampus and memory of fear. The hippocampus plays a crucial role in how we remember and react to fear. This region not only stores memories but also provides context for them. For example, if you've been bitten by a dog in the past, your hippocampus stores that memory. When you encounter a dog in the future, the hippocampus retrieves this memory, signaling to the brain that caution might be warranted. However, the hippocampus isn't perfect. In cases of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, fear memories become overly vivid and intrusive. The hippocampus struggles to distinguish between past and present threats, causing individuals to relive traumatic events as though they're happening in real time. Consider the example of a soldier returning from combat. A sudden loud noise, like fireworks, might trigger an intense fear response because the hippocampus associates the sound with the memory of gunfire. This misinterpretation keeps the fear circuit on high alert, leading to flashbacks and heightened anxiety. Interestingly, studies have shown that the size of the hippocampus can shrink in individuals with PTSD. This reduction in size impairs the brain's ability to process and contextualize fear memories, perpetuating the cycle of trauma. A symphony of fear. The interplay between the amygdala, prefrontal cortex, and hippocampus creates a dynamic system that governs our experience of fear. While each region has its unique role, the collective function is what allows us to navigate the complexities of fear, from immediate threats to long-lasting anxieties. When this system works harmoniously, it helps us respond appropriately to danger and move on once the threat has passed. But when the system is disrupted, whether through overactive amygdala activity, underactive prefrontal regulation, or impaired hippocampal memory processing, it can lead to chronic fear, anxiety disorders, or even debilitating conditions like PTSD. Understanding the brain's role in fear not only sheds light on why we react the way we do but also opens the door to strategies for managing and overcoming fear. Whether through therapy, mindfulness, or medication, addressing the fear circuit offers hope for those struggling with the burdens of anxiety and panic. As we continue to explore the science of fear, it becomes clear that this emotion, while deeply rooted in survival, is also intricately tied to our brain's remarkable complexity. By learning more about how the brain processes fear, we gain not only insight but also the tools to take control of one of the most powerful emotions we experience. The science of panic attack. Panic attacks are among the most intense and unsettling manifestations of fear, marked by overwhelming physical and psychological symptoms that can strike without warning. Unlike ordinary fear, which is often tied to an immediate threat, panic attacks occur seemingly out of the blue, creating a sense of danger when no actual threat is present. To truly understand panic attacks, we must explore their symptoms, prevalence, and the complex science of what happens in the brain during these episodes. What is a panic attack? A panic attack is a sudden and intense wave of fear or discomfort that peaks within minutes and can leave the individual feeling completely out of control. During a panic attack, physical symptoms such as a racing heart, shortness of breath, dizziness, chest pain, sweating, and trembling dominate, often mimicking the signs of a heart attack. Alongside these physical sensations, psychological symptoms like feelings of impending doom, detachment from reality, and a fear of dying or losing control take over, amplifying the distress. What sets a panic attack apart from ordinary fear is its lack of a clear external trigger. While fear typically arises in response to a specific danger, such as seeing a snake or hearing a loud noise, panic attacks often strike unexpectedly, without any obvious cause. This unpredictability is one of the most terrifying aspects of the experience, leaving individuals feeling vulnerable and on edge. Panic attacks are surprisingly common. According to the World Health Organization, WHO, an estimated 13% of people worldwide will experience a panic attack at some point in their lives. In the United States alone, studies suggest that nearly 11% of adults report experiencing a panic attack each year. These statistics highlight the prevalence of this condition and emphasize the importance of understanding its causes and effects. What happens in the brain during a panic attack? The neurological mechanisms behind a panic attack are complex and fascinating, involving a sudden and overwhelming activation of the brain's fear circuit. At the center of this response is the amygdala, the brain's alarm system, which becomes hyperactive during a panic attack. The amygdala perceives a threat, real or imagined, and sends urgent signals to the hypothalamus, which initiates the fight or flight response. This response floods the body with stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, leading to the intense physical sensations associated with a panic attack. Your heart races to pump more oxygen-rich blood to your muscles, your breathing quickens to increase oxygen intake, and your pupils dilate to enhance vision, all of which are designed to help you respond to danger. However, in the case of a panic attack, there is no actual threat to respond to, leaving the body in a heightened state of arousal with no outlet for the energy. While the amygdala overactivates, the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for rational thinking and emotional regulation, becomes underactive. This imbalance makes it difficult to assess the situation logically or calm yourself down. The result is a runaway fear response that spirals out of control, creating the sensation that something catastrophic is happening. Neurotransmitters also play a key role in panic attacks. Adrenaline, often referred to as the fight or flight hormone, intensifies the physical symptoms of fear, while cortisol sustains the body's state of alertness. Research shows that individuals prone to panic attacks often have dysregulated levels of these chemicals, making their fear responses more intense and harder to control. Case study, a personal story of panic. Consider the story of Sarah, a 28-year-old teacher who experienced her first panic attack while driving to work. Out of nowhere, Sarah felt her chest tighten, her heart begin to race, and her vision blur. She thought she was having a heart attack and pulled over to the side of the road, shaking uncontrollably. Although the episode lasted only a few minutes, it felt like an eternity. After visiting a doctor, Sarah learned that she had experienced a panic attack, not a heart attack. However, the experience left her terrified of driving, as she feared the possibility of another attack. This avoidance eventually disrupted her daily life, leading to increased anxiety and a diminished sense of independence. Sarah's story illustrates the profound impact a single panic attack can have, both physically and psychologically. It also highlights the importance of education and support in helping individuals navigate and overcome these experiences. The vicious cycle of panic. One of the most challenging aspects of panic attacks is the vicious cycle they create. After experiencing an initial attack, many individuals develop a fear of having another, a phenomenon known as anticipatory anxiety. This fear often leads to hypervigilance, where the individual becomes acutely aware of their body's sensations, interpreting normal fluctuations, such as a slightly elevated heart rate, as signs of an impending attack. This heightened awareness can inadvertently trigger more panic attacks, as the brain misinterprets benign signals as threats. For example, feeling slightly out of breath after climbing stairs might set off a chain reaction. The amygdala sounds the alarm, stress hormones flood the system, and a full-blown panic attack ensues. This cycle can become self-perpetuating, making it difficult for individuals to break free without intervention. Anticipatory anxiety often leads to avoidance behaviors, where individuals begin avoiding situations or activities they associate with past panic attacks. This avoidance can significantly impact quality of life, as it restricts daily activities and fosters a sense of isolation. Over time, these patterns can develop into panic disorder, a condition characterized by recurrent panic attacks and persistent fear of future episodes. Breaking the cycle of panic requires addressing both the physiological and psychological components of the experience. Techniques such as cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, mindfulness, and exposure therapy can help individuals retrain their brains to respond more calmly to perceived threats, while medication can assist in regulating neurotransmitter levels. Understanding the science of panic attacks is the first step in demystifying this overwhelming experience. By exploring what happens in the brain during these episodes, we gain not only a deeper appreciation for the complexity of fear but also a roadmap for managing and overcoming it. For those who experience panic attacks, knowledge truly is power, a tool for reclaiming control and finding calm in the midst of chaos. Anxiety versus fear. The subtle difference is fear and anxiety are often used interchangeably, but these emotions, while closely related, are distinct in how they manifest and the roles they play in our lives. Both are survival mechanisms that help us navigate danger and uncertainty, but their triggers, purposes, and effects on the brain are unique. Understanding these differences is crucial to addressing and managing both emotions effectively. Fear versus anxiety. Definition. Fear is a primal, immediate response to a direct threat. It's the brain's way of alerting us to a present danger, whether it's a charging animal, a looming car crash, or a stranger following too closely in a dark alley. Fear activates the fight or flight response, preparing the body for immediate action. It's short-lived and highly focused, designed to deal with the here and now. Anxiety, on the other hand, is future-oriented. It arises not from an immediate threat but from the anticipation of something that might happen. Anxiety is the nagging voice in your head that says, "What if? What if the presentation goes poorly? What if you don't meet the deadline? What if something happens to your loved ones?" Unlike fear, anxiety is often prolonged and less focused, creating a state of heightened alertness that can persist even in the absence of actual danger. This distinction explains why fear is often seen as protective, while anxiety can be debilitating. Fear helps you respond to immediate threats, whereas anxiety, when chronic, can interfere with daily life, leading to exhaustion and a diminished sense of well-being. How the brain differentiates fear and anxiety. While fear and anxiety share overlapping pathways in the brain, there are key differences in how the brain processes these emotions. The amygdala plays a central role in both, but its activation patterns vary depending on whether the threat is immediate, fear, or anticipated, anxiety. When fear arises, the amygdala reacts quickly, setting off the fight or flight response. This rapid reaction is essential for dealing with immediate threats, such as an oncoming car or a growling dog. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for rational thinking and decision-making, often has little time to intervene during these moments. In contrast, anxiety engages the amygdala in a more sustained way. The brain's default mode network, DMN, also comes into play. The DMN is a network of brain regions that activates when your mind is at rest, such as when you're daydreaming or reflecting on the past and future. In individuals with anxiety, the DMN becomes hyperactive, constantly running through worst-case scenarios and imagined threats. This overactivation of the DMN can lead to rumination, a hallmark of anxiety where the mind fixates on negative thoughts. Combined with the amygdala's heightened activity, this creates a feedback loop that makes it difficult to break free from the cycle of worry. The hippocampus, which processes memory, also plays a role. In fear, the hippocampus helps the brain recall past experiences to assess whether the current threat is similar to previous dangers. In anxiety, the hippocampus may amplify the perception of threat by drawing connections between unrelated events, creating a sense of dread about what's to come. Case study: anxiety disorder. As the differences between fear and anxiety are most apparent in anxiety disorders, where the mechanisms of anxiety become maladaptive. Generalized anxiety disorder, GAD, and social anxiety are two of the most common anxiety disorders, each offering a glimpse into how chronic anxiety rewires the brain. Generalized anxiety disorder is characterized by excessive and persistent worry about a wide range of topics, from work and finances to health and relationships. Individuals with GAD often struggle to control their worry, leading to physical symptoms such as restlessness, fatigue, and muscle tension. According to the Anxiety and Depression Association of America, ADAA, GAD affects approximately 6.8 million adults in the United States alone, with women twice as likely to be diagnosed as men. Social anxiety disorder, on the other hand, is a fear of social situations where one might be judged or scrutinized. This can lead to avoidance of social interactions, from public speaking to attending parties. Social anxiety affects an estimated 15 million adults in the US, making it the second most common anxiety disorder after specific phobias. Studies show that chronic anxiety rewires the brain over time, creating structural and functional changes that perpetuate the cycle of worry. For example, individuals with anxiety disorders often have an enlarged amygdala, making them more sensitive to perceived threats. The prefrontal cortex, which should regulate these fear responses, shows reduced activity, further exacerbating the problem. Additionally, chronic anxiety can lead to changes in the hippocampus, shrinking its size and impairing its ability to process memories accurately. This creates a scenario where the brain struggles to differentiate between real and imagined threats, making everyday situations feel overwhelming. A complex relationship. Fear and anxiety, while distinct, are deeply interconnected. Fear can trigger anxiety, and prolonged anxiety can make individuals more prone to experiencing fear. For example, someone with social anxiety might fear public speaking because they anticipate negative judgment. When placed in that situation, their fear response activates, reinforcing their anxiety and making the experience even more distressing. Understanding the subtle differences between fear and anxiety, and how the brain processes each, is key to addressing these emotions. By recognizing the triggers, patterns, and mechanisms involved, individuals can take steps toward managing their responses and finding balance. While fear is a necessary part of survival, anxiety is often a byproduct of our ability to think ahead and imagine possibilities. It's a testament to the complexity of the human brain, a double-edged sword that can both protect and hinder us. By exploring the science behind these emotions, we gain a deeper appreciation for their roles in our lives and how we can work with, rather than against, them. Controversial insights. Can fear be controlled? Fear is a powerful, primal emotion that has ensured the survival of countless species, including humans. But as we've evolved and advanced as a society, fear has also become a source of struggle, particularly in the context of anxiety disorders, phobias, and chronic stress. This has led researchers and psychologists to explore the possibility of controlling or even eliminating fear altogether. However, this pursuit raises ethical and philosophical questions. Should we interfere with something so deeply ingrained in our biology? And what happens if we tamper with one of humanity's oldest survival mechanisms? Neuroplasticity and fear conditioning. One of the most promising areas of research into controlling fear lies in the concept of neuroplasticity, the brain's remarkable ability to rewire itself in response to new experiences, learning, or damage. Neuroplasticity allows us to adapt to changing environments, acquire new skills, and even overcome deeply ingrained fears. Fear conditioning is a psychological phenomenon in which an individual learns to associate a neutral stimulus with a fearful event. For instance, if a person hears a loud noise every time they see a specific object, they might develop a fear of that object, even in the absence of the noise. This is how phobias often form. However, the reverse process, known as fear extinction, offers a way to reduce or eliminate these responses. In fear extinction, individuals are repeatedly exposed to the fear-inducing stimulus in a safe and controlled environment, without any negative consequences. Over time, the brain learns that the stimulus is no longer a threat, weakening the fear response. This approach forms the basis of exposure therapy, a widely used treatment for phobias and anxiety disorders. Studies in fear extinction therapy have demonstrated the brain's incredible capacity to unlearn fear. Research using functional MRI scans shows that repeated exposure to fear-inducing stimuli reduces activity in the amygdala while increasing activity in the prefrontal cortex. This shift suggests that the brain becomes better at regulating fear responses, allowing individuals to face their fears with greater confidence and control. While this is promising, the effectiveness of fear extinction therapy varies from person to person. Some individuals experience complete relief from their fears, while others struggle to maintain the progress they've made, highlighting the complexity of the brain's fear circuitry. The ethics of manipulating fear. As our understanding of fear grows, so does our ability to manipulate it. Advances in neuroscience have led to experimental treatments that aim to suppress or eliminate fear altogether. For example, researchers are exploring the use of drugs that target the brain's fear circuitry, blocking the amygdala's response to perceived threats. While these treatments show potential for alleviating severe anxiety and trauma, they also raise ethical concerns. One of the biggest questions is whether fear should be eliminated entirely. Fear, after all, is a critical survival mechanism that protects us from harm. Without it, we would be less likely to recognize danger or make cautious decisions. Imagine a world where no one feared consequences, reckless behavior, poor judgment, and even societal chaos could ensue. Fear also plays a role in moral and ethical decision-making. It prevents us from harming others, breaking laws, or engaging in risky activities. For example, the fear of punishment discourages crime, while the fear of failure motivates people to work hard and strive for success. Eliminating fear could disrupt these social and psychological dynamics, leading to unintended consequences. Moreover, fear is deeply tied to the human experience. It's part of what makes us empathetic, cautious, and resilient. By eliminating fear, we risk losing an essential aspect of what it means to be human. These ethical considerations underscore the importance of balancing scientific progress with respect for the natural functions of our emotions. Case study: fearlessness in psychopathy. To understand the implications of fearlessness, we can turn to a group of individuals who naturally exhibit a reduced fear response: psychopaths. Psychopathy is a personality disorder characterized by traits such as lack of empathy, impulsivity, and fearlessness. Studying the brains of psychopaths provides valuable insight into what happens when fear is diminished or absent. Neuroimaging studies have revealed key differences in the brains of psychopaths, particularly in the amygdala and prefrontal cortex. The amygdala, responsible for processing fear and emotional responses, is often smaller and less active in individuals with psychopathy. This reduced activity correlates with their inability to experience fear or anxiety in situations that would terrify most people. For example, while an average person might feel nervous or apprehensive about taking extreme risks, a psychopath might feel no such hesitation. This fearlessness can manifest in behaviors like committing crimes without concern for consequences or engaging in dangerous activities without regard for personal safety. Interestingly, psychopaths also show impairments in the prefrontal cortex, which regulates decision-making and emotional control. This combination of low amygdala activity and impaired prefrontal regulation contributes to the impulsive and reckless behavior often associated with psychopathy. While the lack of fear in psychopaths might seem advantageous in some situations, it comes at a significant cost. Without fear, there's little to guide ethical behavior, foster empathy, or promote social harmony. This case study highlights the importance of fear in maintaining balance within the brain and society as a whole. A delicate balance. The question of whether fear can, and should, be controlled is both scientifically fascinating and ethically complex. On one hand, advancements in neuroscience and psychology offer hope for individuals suffering from debilitating anxiety, phobias, or trauma. On the other hand, tampering with fear raises profound questions about human nature, morality, and the unintended consequences of eliminating a fundamental emotion. While it's clear that fear can be reduced and managed through techniques like therapy and medication, its complete eradication may not be desirable, or even possible. Fear is not just a survival mechanism. It's a teacher, a motivator, and a safeguard. By understanding and respecting its role, we can find ways to harness its power without compromising the essence of what makes us human. In the end, the goal should not be to eliminate fear but to find harmony with it, to learn when to listen to it, when to challenge it, and how to let it guide us without letting it control us. The science of fear continues to push the boundaries of what we know about the brain, offering both opportunities and challenges as we navigate this delicate balance. The physiology of fear. Fear isn't just an emotional or mental response. It's deeply rooted in the physical processes of the body. From the moment fear is triggered in the brain, a cascade of physiological reactions follows, preparing the body to deal with potential threats. These reactions are mediated by a network of hormones, neurotransmitters, and bodily systems designed to enhance survival. Understanding this intricate interplay reveals how fear manifests physically and the consequences of prolonged exposure to it. The role of neurotransmitters is at the core of the physiological response to fear as several key neurotransmitters and hormones, each playing a vital role in how the body reacts. The first and most immediate chemical released during fear is adrenaline, often referred to as the fight or flight hormone. Produced by the adrenal glands, adrenaline surges through the bloodstream within seconds of the brain detecting a threat. This hormone is responsible for the rapid physical changes we associate with fear, such as increased heart rate, dilated pupils, and heightened alertness. Cortisol, another hormone released during fear, has a more prolonged effect. While adrenaline prepares the body for immediate action, cortisol sustains this state of readiness by maintaining blood sugar levels and suppressing non-essential functions like digestion and immune responses. Cortisol ensures the body remains primed to handle the threat until it has passed. Dopamine, though less commonly associated with fear, also plays a role. This neurotransmitter is involved in motivation and reward, helping the brain evaluate potential outcomes of fear-inducing situations. In some cases, dopamine released during fear can drive risk-taking behaviors, as the brain seeks to overcome the challenge and gain a sense of reward or relief. Studies on hormonal spikes during fear provide fascinating insights. Research shows that adrenaline levels can increase by up to 50% during acute fear responses, while cortisol levels may remain elevated for hours or even days after a particularly stressful event. These findings highlight the significant impact fear has on the body's chemical balance, influencing both immediate reactions and longer-term states. The body's response to fear. When fear strikes, the body undergoes a series of rapid and noticeable changes, all designed to enhance the chances of survival. One of the most immediate effects is an increase in heart rate. This ensures that oxygen-rich blood is quickly delivered to the muscles, enabling a faster physical response. Simultaneously, blood flow is redirected away from less critical areas, such as the digestive system, to prioritize vital organs and muscle groups. Pupils dilate during fear to allow more light into the eyes, enhancing vision and making it easier to detect potential threats in the environment. This heightened sensory input ensures that you can react quickly to changes or movements. Muscle tension is another hallmark of the fear response. Your body prepares to either fight or flee, and tightened muscles are ready to spring into action. This tension can sometimes feel overwhelming, manifesting as trembling or shaking, particularly in moments of extreme fear. These physiological responses are crucial for survival. Without them, humans and animals would be less capable of responding to immediate dangers. Imagine encountering a wild animal without the ability to run faster, see more clearly, or react quickly. Survival in such scenarios would be nearly impossible. However, these responses are not without their drawbacks. In modern life, where threats are often more psychological than physical, the same physiological reactions can feel inappropriate or even debilitating. For example, experiencing these symptoms during a public speaking engagement or an exam can be overwhelming, as there is no physical danger to confront or escape from. Fear and long-term health effects. While the short-term physiological effects of fear are essential for survival, prolonged exposure to fear and anxiety can have serious consequences for both physical and mental health. Chronic fear activates the body's stress response repeatedly or continuously, leading to wear and tear on the body over time. One of the most significant long-term impacts of chronic fear is on cardiovascular health. Persistent activation of the fight or flight response increases blood pressure and heart rate, placing undue strain on the heart and blood vessels. Over time, this can lead to hypertension, atherosclerosis, and an increased risk of heart attacks and strokes. Chronic fear and anxiety also suppress the immune system. Elevated cortisol levels weaken the body's defenses, making individuals more susceptible to infections and illnesses. Additionally, prolonged stress can disrupt digestive processes, leading to conditions such as irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, or acid reflux. The mental health effects of chronic fear are equally concerning. Persistent anxiety and fear are linked to an increased risk of depression, sleep disorders, and substance abuse. The brain's fear circuitry becomes hyperactive in these states, making it difficult to relax or feel safe. This can create a vicious cycle where fear perpetuates itself, leading to further mental and physical health issues. Statistics on the global impact of chronic stress paint a sobering picture. According to the World Health Organization, WHO, stress-related disorders are among the leading causes of disability worldwide, with anxiety and depression affecting over 260 million people. Chronic stress is also linked to a significant portion of preventable deaths, with cardiovascular disease alone accounting for approximately 17.9 million deaths annually. Managing the physiology of fear. Understanding the physiological processes behind fear opens the door to managing its effects. Techniques such as mindfulness and deep breathing can help regulate the body's stress response, calming the amygdala and reducing cortisol levels. Physical exercise has also been shown to mitigate the impact of chronic stress, as it helps burn off excess adrenaline and promote the release of endorphins, which improve mood. Therapies like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, and exposure therapy address the mental aspects of fear while also helping to rewire the brain's fear pathways. These approaches can reduce the frequency and intensity of fear responses, offering individuals a way to regain control over their physical and mental states. In conclusion, the physiology of fear is a complex and finely tuned system that plays a crucial role in survival. From the rapid release of adrenaline to the sustained effects of cortisol, the body's response to fear is a testament to its evolutionary brilliance. However, when fear becomes chronic or misaligned with modern life's challenges, it can take a significant toll on health and well-being. By understanding these processes and addressing them proactively, we can harness the power of fear without letting it control us. This balance is key to living a life where fear serves as a protector, not a burden. Overcoming fear and anxiety. Fear and anxiety, while deeply ingrained in our biology, are not insurmountable challenges. Advances in psychology, neuroscience, and medicine have given us tools to understand and address these emotions in ways that empower individuals to regain control. From therapeutic interventions to mindfulness practices and medication, a range of strategies can help manage and even overcome fear and anxiety. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, is one of the most effective methods for retraining the brain to handle fear and anxiety. At its core, CBT focuses on identifying and changing negative thought patterns that contribute to fear responses. By challenging these patterns, individuals can learn to replace automatic reactions with more rational and adaptive responses. CBT operates on the principle that our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors are interconnected. For example, a person with social anxiety might think, "Everyone will judge me if I speak up," leading to feelings of fear and avoidance behaviors. CBT helps them recognize that this thought is not necessarily true and introduces healthier alternatives, such as, "Some people might disagree, but most won't judge me harshly." One of the key strengths of CBT is its ability to rewire the brain. Studies using functional MRI scans show that CBT strengthens the connection between the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala, improving the brain's ability to regulate fear responses. Over time, this can reduce the frequency and intensity of anxiety episodes. Success rates for CBT are impressive. Research indicates that 60–80% of individuals with anxiety disorders experience significant improvements after undergoing CBT. Real-life examples abound, such as individuals overcoming debilitating phobias, panic attacks, or chronic worry through structured therapy sessions. For instance, someone with a fear of public speaking might work with a therapist to gradually confront their fears, eventually delivering a speech with confidence. Mindfulness and meditation. Mindfulness and meditation have gained widespread recognition as powerful tools for managing fear and anxiety. These practices focus on cultivating awareness of the present moment, helping individuals observe their thoughts and emotions without judgment. By doing so, they can interrupt the cycle of rumination and fear that often perpetuates anxiety. One of the key ways mindfulness and meditation work is by calming the amygdala, the brain's fear center. Regular practice has been shown to reduce amygdala activity, making individuals less reactive to perceived threats. Additionally, mindfulness strengthens the prefrontal cortex, enhancing emotional regulation and decision-making. Numerous studies have demonstrated the effectiveness of mindfulness in reducing fear responses. A meta-analysis of 47 clinical trials found that mindfulness-based interventions significantly reduced symptoms of anxiety, depression, and stress. Another study published in Psychiatry Research, Neuroimaging revealed that just 8 weeks of mindfulness meditation led to measurable reductions in amygdala volume, further supporting its role in managing fear. Mindfulness techniques, such as deep breathing, body scans, and guided meditation, are accessible and can be practiced anywhere. For example, someone experiencing a panic attack might focus on slow, deliberate breaths to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which counteracts the fight or flight response. Over time, these practices can create a sense of inner calm, even in stressful situations. Exposure therapy. Exposure therapy is a cornerstone of fear treatment, particularly for phobias and trauma-related anxiety. This approach involves gradually confronting fear-inducing stimuli in a controlled and systematic way, allowing the brain to unlearn its association between the stimulus and danger. The process of exposure therapy begins with identifying the source of fear and breaking it down into manageable steps. For example, someone with a fear of flying might start by looking at pictures of airplanes, then progress to visiting an airport, and eventually take a short flight. This technique, known as graded exposure, ensures that each step feels achievable, building confidence along the way. The success of exposure therapy lies in the brain's ability to adapt through neuroplasticity. Repeated exposure to a feared stimulus without negative consequences weakens the amygdala's fear response and strengthens the prefrontal cortex's ability to regulate emotions. Over time, the stimulus becomes less frightening, allowing individuals to face their fears with greater ease. A compelling case study involves a woman named Laura, who had a severe fear of flying. Her anxiety was so intense that she avoided air travel for over a decade, missing out on family events and opportunities. Through exposure therapy, Laura began by visualizing herself on a plane, then visited airports, and finally took a supervised flight with her therapist. Each step reduced her fear, and within 6 months, she was able to fly cross-country to visit her family, a milestone she once thought impossible. The role of medication. For some individuals, therapy and mindfulness alone may not be enough to manage severe fear and anxiety. In such cases, medication can play a supportive role in reducing symptoms and improving quality of life. Anti-anxiety medications, such as benzodiazepines and selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, SSRIs, work by targeting the brain's fear circuitry. Benzodiazepines, for example, enhance the effects of gamma-aminobutyric acid, GABA, a neurotransmitter that calms brain activity. This provides immediate relief from acute anxiety but carries the risk of dependency with long-term use. SSRIs, on the other hand, increase serotonin levels in the brain, helping to regulate mood and reduce chronic anxiety. These medications take longer to work but are considered safer for extended use. While medication can be highly effective, it is not without controversy. Critics argue that society has become overly reliant on pharmaceuticals to manage fear and anxiety, often overlooking the underlying causes of these emotions. For instance, prescribing medication for someone with work-related stress might address the symptoms but not the root issue, such as an overwhelming workload or lack of support. There is also concern about the potential for side effects and dependency. Benzodiazepines, in particular, can lead to tolerance and withdrawal symptoms, making it essential for their use to be carefully monitored. This raises the question of whether medication should be a first-line treatment or reserved for cases where other interventions have failed. Finding a balance. Overcoming fear and anxiety is not a one-size-fits-all journey. For some, therapy and mindfulness provide the tools needed to face life's challenges with confidence. For others, medication offers the stability required to engage in therapy or make lifestyle changes. The key is finding a balanced approach that addresses both the physical and psychological aspects of fear. Each of these methods, CBT, mindfulness, exposure therapy, and medication, has its strengths and limitations. Together, they form a comprehensive toolkit for managing fear, empowering individuals to take control of their lives. By understanding how these interventions work and tailoring them to individual needs, it's possible to transform fear from an overwhelming force into a manageable part of life. Ultimately, the journey to overcoming fear and anxiety is one of growth, resilience, and self-discovery. With the right support and strategies, fear no longer has to be a barrier. It can become a stepping stone to a more confident and fulfilling life. Fear in modern society. Fear has always been a part of the human experience, but its role in modern society has evolved. In today's world, fear is often used as a tool, manipulated by those in power, amplified by the media, and magnified by technology. While fear remains an instinctive survival mechanism, it is also being repurposed in ways that shape how we think, behave, and perceive the world around us. Fear is a tool. Fear is an incredibly powerful motivator, which is why it has been used for centuries in politics, marketing, and media. Leaders and organizations have long understood that fear can influence decisions, sway opinions, and mobilize action. In politics, fear is often leveraged to gain support for policies or to discredit opponents. For instance, during election campaigns, fear-based messaging is frequently employed to warn voters of perceived threats, such as economic downturns, foreign adversaries, or cultural shifts. These messages tap into our natural inclination to prioritize safety and security, making them highly effective in swaying public opinion. In marketing, fear-based advertising plays on insecurities to promote products or services. From skincare companies warning about the dangers of premature aging to home security systems emphasizing the risk of burglary, fear is used to create a sense of urgency. These tactics often exploit vulnerabilities, encouraging consumers to act out of anxiety rather than genuine need. The media also capitalizes on fear to capture attention. The phrase, "if it bleeds, it leads," reflects the reality that sensational, fear-inducing stories attract more viewers, readers, and clicks. Headlines about crime, natural disasters, or public health crises are designed to provoke an emotional response, ensuring that audiences stay engaged. This focus on fear-based content not only drives revenue but also shapes public perception, often making the world feel more dangerous than it actually is. The psychological effects of fear-based messaging are profound. Research shows that repeated exposure to fear-inducing content can heighten anxiety, alter decision-making, and even contribute to mistrust and polarization. When fear becomes a dominant narrative, it can create a society that is more reactive, divided, and prone to stress. Fear in the digital age. The digital age has brought new dimensions to the experience of fear. Social media platforms, with the constant flow of information, have become powerful amplifiers of fear, often exacerbating its effects. One phenomenon that has emerged in this context is doomscrolling, where individuals compulsively consume negative news, even when it causes distress. Doomscrolling feeds into the brain's natural tendency to focus on threats. The more we scroll through alarming headlines or unsettling posts, the more our amygdala becomes activated, reinforcing a cycle of fear and anxiety. This behavior is compounded by algorithms that prioritize emotionally charged content, ensuring that fear-inducing stories are more likely to appear in our feeds. The rise of misinformation and sensationalism on social media further amplifies fear. Unverified claims, conspiracy theories, and exaggerated stories can spread rapidly, creating a heightened sense of uncertainty and mistrust. For example, during public health crises like the COVID-19 pandemic, misinformation about vaccines and treatments fueled anxiety and skepticism, making it harder for people to make informed decisions. Data supports the link between social media use and rising anxiety disorders. A study published in JAMA Psychiatry found that heavy social media users are significantly more likely to experience symptoms of anxiety and depression than those who use these platforms sparingly. The 24/7 nature of digital connectivity means there is little respite from the constant stream of fear-inducing content, leaving individuals in a near-constant state of alertness. Social media also magnifies the fear of missing out. FOMO, a form of anxiety that arises from comparing one's life to the curated, idealized versions presented online. This fear of inadequacy can lead to feelings of isolation, low self-esteem, and a diminished sense of well-being. Navigating fear in modern society. While fear is an unavoidable part of life, understanding how it is used and amplified in modern society can help individuals navigate it more effectively. By recognizing the tactics used in politics, marketing, and media, we can approach fear-inducing messages with a critical eye, questioning their motives and validity. In the digital age, setting boundaries around social media use is crucial. Limiting time spent online, seeking out balanced and credible news sources, and engaging in offline activities can help reduce the impact of fear-driven content. Practicing mindfulness and focusing on positive experiences can also counteract the effects of constant exposure to negativity. Ultimately, fear in modern society is both a challenge and an opportunity. While it can be exploited and magnified in harmful ways, it also has the potential to motivate positive change. By understanding the role fear plays in our lives, we can learn to harness its power, making choices that align with our values rather than succumbing to manipulation. In doing so, we can reclaim control over our emotions and build a more resilient, informed, and balanced society. Fear is a fundamental part of what makes us human, a survival mechanism that has protected us since the dawn of time. From its evolutionary roots, where it helped early humans evade predators and natural threats, to its intricate workings in the modern brain, fear has always played a pivotal role in our lives. We've explored how fear operates on a neurological level, activating the amygdala, prefrontal cortex, and hippocampus to create a response that is both immediate and deeply personal. We've also examined the differences between fear and anxiety, uncovering how the brain navigates immediate versus anticipated threats. But fear is not just a biological reaction, it's an experience that can shape our thoughts, behaviors, and even our health. When fear becomes chronic, it can lead to serious physical and mental health consequences, such as cardiovascular disease, anxiety disorders, and depression. Yet, as we've seen, fear is not insurmountable. Understanding fear is the first step to mastering it. If this video helped you see fear from a new perspective, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your engagement allows us to continue creating content that informs, inspires, and empowers. Remember, fear is not your enemy, it's your guide, teaching you to navigate life's uncertainties. By embracing fear, we don't just survive, we thrive, discovering strength and resilience we never knew we had. Fear shows us what matters most, helping us protect what we value and achieve what we once thought impossible. Let it guide you, not control you, and you'll find that even in your most challenging moments, you are capable of extraordinary things.